Good morning. I am Kevin Price. Glad to be with you. Going to spend some time talking to you about you and your business. One of my favorite people to come through this studio is Chris Corso. We talk to him every week on the program, bringing different topics pertaining to the law, really pertaining a lot to civil liberties, and always enjoy having you on the program. And we're also, sometimes you're in studio, sometimes you're by phone. Always glad when we can actually get you in the studio.
It's always great to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Talk a little bit about your firm before we get into our topic, which, if you've been watching TV lately, you've had to see something about this movie, this documentary called Making a Murderer. And we're going to talk about things pertaining to that, not so much that movie, but pertaining to that movie. But talk about your practice first.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's the kind of thing we do right there, and we've seen that. I've seen that for years now. But we're a criminal practice. Started off in Scottsdale, Arizona, which we still have, and we're down here in Houston now. And great to be here. We represent people from clients from everything from traffic all the way up to homicide, serious felonies. And the approach we take, and we talk about this all the time, is to represent the person, not just the client, and so the family, and we take that kind of different approach to it. But so it's a criminal practice down here now.
It's almost more of a human approach.
It is. It absolutely is, and you have to. You have to.
So we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to focus on forensics. How many TV shows are there about forensics or have been about forensics? There's an entire, CSI. That's an entire franchise in about 4 different cities. There's, FBI Files that's heavily on forensics, and so people are fascinated about it. But its history has been a little bit scurrious over the decades.
Yeah, it has. I mean, they're popular. A lot of juries decide things based on those shows.
But none of those in the jury are scientists,
right? Usually, typically not. A lot of prosecutors will kick them off the jury,
right?
So, but the shows like Making Murderer on the Netflix, the documentary, people like that because it's real, But there are a lot of shows. But it is the DNA that we're talking about, and I know that you want to talk about that show, of course, but. It's just proven unreliable in a lot of places. Can't seem to get it right. And I've been talking about this for 50. This is something that really irritates me when we talk about it. But when they go and pull DNA off a crime scene or something, what's happening is they're having a lot of difficulty separating. It was just multiple DNA strands from different people, and what's happening is they're having a lot of trouble pulling them apart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, exactly. And so, and this is not a new problem. This is a problem that's gone on for years, and the prosecutor is always selective about which part of that DNA that they use.
That's right. It has been going on for years. It's just the technology and the knowledge of it that it is a problem hasn't been there. I mean, they've overturned over the last 336 post-conviction exonerations for DNA, and that's just a small sample size. And so you think about the cases that have been, since DNA was being started to be used, all those cases that haven't even been looked at. So prosecutors, they want to use it because of these shows we're talking about, and it sounds, really good to people. Hey, DNA, you have DNA, it's unique to you, but how about all the other strands that are on there? So
and so the technology behind DNA is only getting better. It's getting exponentially better. My mind says, is that good for the for the defense or for the prosecutor? I guess it depends if your client is guilty or not.
Yeah, well, that's
I worked through that question without asking it.
That's right, and the prosecutor loves to walk through the door thinking immediately, well, they are guilty. This is just going to back it up,
right?
But no, I mean, I disagree with a lot of what's happening. I mean, prosecutors, they're very sloppy, in my experience, about how they handle the DNA in law enforcement, and it depends on the region that you're in and the sophistication of it. But the irritating thing is you got people being convicted of rape, you have people convicted of murder and being sentenced to death or death row or life, and based on DNA.
Right.
And now we're seeing this, and which is things that in my world we've known for 15 years. That how can it be reliable when there's so much on an item? Right. Bite marks and hair samples and things like that just get. Do you know that 7 out of 11? The only 7 out of 11 testing facilities they found are able to separate the strands from, say, you and me touching one thing. They're able to separate. Only 7 and that's just a small sample. That's disgusting to me.
It is, and yet they act like it's a oracle of God in the courtroom. The prosecution will act like it's an oracle of God, and so it's incredible. This particular story, I have rarely seen a story get this kind of media attention. And it seems particularly heinous to me. There's so much incongruity. It apparently looks like evidence planning. There's even, in the second case, when that county was about to become financially ruined, in the Steve Avery case, there's days of them probably being financially ruined, that county ruined. Yeah. All of a sudden this murder happens, and a veil from the 1980-something murder has a hole in it, and the blood, it's just really bizarre how all of this takes place. And you would think with the kind of death blow they claimed that the victim had, that there'd be blood all over the place. It's a little smeared, like you would get from a small veil. This is a really interesting, really bizarre case.
Yeah, it is, and that's. I'm glad you said that about the municipality or the region that they were going bankrupt, and all of a sudden here we are with this. I've seen this. A lot of my clients too. The longer that you're in a certain area, they not profile you, but they get an image of you, and they see you, and they're looking for you for everything that goes on. So this guy here, he was doomed. When he got out. Before he even started, he should have moved.
Yeah, he should not have come back to that
Absolutely
area.
not, because they had him. They were, he was going to be the first guy they saw for everything.
Anything.
Yeah.
So, he was the, and that police force seemed like the entire operations were made up of Barney Fives.
Oh, and that's the other problem.
Over-eager and not particularly bright.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good analysis. You can apply that to a lot of sheriff's departments in Arizona. But we won't talk. That's a story for another day,
another show, another time.
But yeah, it's the level of sophistication in the testing is fine, and in the technology, but who's pushing the buttons?
Yeah.
And that's the other problem, especially when they have
the agenda behind that button pushing.
Right. They have a preconceived idea of, well, it's this guy. Let's now find the evidence to support that it's this guy versus, here's the evidence. Let's find the right person.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. And this is irritating because for 15 years we've been talking about that, is it as reliable as we think it is? Sure, yeah, DNA is unique, but is it unique on the item that we're talking about? And these are serious things, and this is something that as I said, it's irritating because you got a lot of clients, a lot of people that just are being convicted of things and going back years. They can't seem to, the technology wasn't as good then, so you can imagine how many are in there that shouldn't be.
Yeah, you can only imagine. And I believe, generally speaking, we've had this conversation many times. This is why I believe people should have a lawyer relationship. Someone, they shouldn't have to call you for the first time because they got in trouble. It'd be nice to have a relationship with someone like you before. And because I don't believe that law enforcement and the courts are in the justice business, but in the conviction business.
That's right.
And they become very myopic, and they become very tunnel vision when something goes awry. And so, all the more important for people to have a relationship with a firm like yours.
They should, and that's why we take the approach we do about representing the person, because we get to teach them, get knowledge. So there is that relationship. So when something like this guy, where he's just going to keep getting approached over and over again, because they don't understand that it's a stat-driven organization, as you said, all kinds of funding and things.
Right. From that. Yeah, if he had you as an attorney, the day he got out of jail, he said the last place you need to live is in that county.
Right. Well,
find somewhere else to go. You were completely exonerated. You have no parole limitations. You have no probation limitations. Go.
Well, I would have beat it. I would have beat it if he had me. But you're right. He should have got right out of there. That's the first thing I would have told him and his family before it even happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have had them go.
We don't even want him to come home from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's go to Milwaukee or whatever.
Yeah, anywhere.
Yeah. All right. This Corso Law Group is the firm. CorsoLawGroup.com. Offices in Houston as well as in Arizona. We have listeners all over the country, so we like to tell them that. And when we come back, we're going to have more for you right here on The Price of Business.
Not just anybody.